He doesn't have any turrets around here. He doesn't have anything to deal with the Wraiths. Okay, he's throwing in some SCVs to try to take out the tank army, but still the Wraiths are in here causing a lot of damage, picking off tank after tank after tank. Another tank going down, and I think Fantasy is going to bring in a reinforcement squad. He definitely is. This is being spotted by Leta, and Leta's probably sweating at this point because he just can't get units in here to help him fight off the Wraiths. He's getting one Goliath. He needs a lot more Goliaths here, I think. The barracks going to be picked off from him as well, so he's got to rebuild his barracks. It's just looking bad for Leta at this point. These Wraiths are being so annoying. Just such a great tech switch from Fantasy. Fantasy's still picking off tanks left and right here. And Goliaths. Just not enough Goliaths for Leta, I don't think. Leta is actually doing a nice harassment down here at the 5 o'clock position. Single vulture harassment. Fantasy bringing in his Wraiths to fend that off. He doesn't want to stop mining with those SCVs. So that's a very interesting play from him. And yeah, he's taken the middle. Fantasy is taking the middle. And Leta's going to have to do a lot to break out of this, I believe. There's Fantasy repairing a tank. So he's definitely going to commit to the middle. I can see him building a lot of turrets in the middle soon. Getting an even larger siege tank line there in the middle as well. And Cloaked Wraiths now. He has Cloak technology. So this is looking... I think Leta has pretty much lost this game now. I'm not sure what he can do to get back in this game. I don't think he has Cloak researched of his own. He has Scan, but he doesn't have enough Goliaths to even pick off, I think, 6, 7 Wraiths in here and 2 Goliaths. The Wraiths could pick off the Goliaths in that, and the Scan would be wasted anyway. So Fantasy is just picking at the units here. Loses 2 Wraiths there, though, so he's got to be careful here. He's losing some tags here at the front, too. Losing another Wraith, so Fantasy's kind of falling behind now. His Wraiths being picked off, and Fantasy, I don't see any backup Wraiths for Fantasy at this point. He still holds the middle, and that's a huge deal. If he can take the high ground there and keep Leta from sieging out, he's pretty much have this game because he'll have full map maneuverability. And Leta, I think Leta might be pumping a lot more Wraiths now and trying to swing the game back in his favor with Wraiths. He found this pack of vultures trying to come in here to lay a mine to do some economic harassment, so he's going to pick those off. But Cloaked Wraiths are going to come in and clean up those uncloaked Wraiths. Cloaking. Both Wraiths are cloaking. Both scans from both players, I believe, in there. So that was pretty crazy. Hard to tell what happens when both of them cloak and 2 different scans come out. But it looks like Leta, he scanned in this area, and he's going to try to pick off these mines, keep his tanks safe. Of course, tanks are one of the largest factors in a TVT. And more mines being picked off here. Of course, he's wasting quite a bit of scan on that. If more Cloaked Wraiths come in here, he's going to be pretty much screwed. And there are some Wraiths right there. Leta's moving out with his own Cloaked Wraiths, though, so... Oh, man. Wow, Fantasy's actually being picked off here. His last Wraith. One of his last Wraiths. There's another Wraith then for Fantasy, but Scan here, and this Wraith is going to be picked off as well. Oh, man, this is Scan Cloak Wars here in the middle, and looks like Fantasy is taking it once again. Scanning the middle, chasing off that Wraith. Picking off another tank. Scan has got to be running low for both players here. This is when it starts to get dangerous, when Wraiths can really play a huge factor in the game. You see that Leta is just picking off the tank here, and Fantasy doesn't have any scan at all to deal with it. His Wraiths are running around somewhere, probably doing some harassment. Both players really need another base right now. Leta is taking his 3rd base, and Fantasy saw it, so he's probably going to go up with, whoa, that's a lot of vultures. If he brings in those vultures, he might be able to pick off the command center, actually, because that's a lot of vultures. A lot more starports coming out for Fantasy. So, wow, this is turning out to be an interesting game after all. And Leta is still only working from 2 starports. But Leta's done a pretty good job of fighting his way back into this game. I still think that Fantasy does have the advantage just because of how many tanks he picked off in the middle. He lost a bunch of Wraiths, but he picked off a lot of pesky tanks. Tanks are probably the biggest factor in a TVT. Until you get into late game, of course, in which tanks become pretty much useless. There's tanks going down for Fantasy, so Fantasy's being picked off now. And he's got to be running low on scan right now, since he had to scan to deal with those raids so many times. Another command center, so it looks like Leta's going to try to take his 4th base. This could turn out bad for him, maybe. If I guess he's hoping that Fantasy won't have the guts to move in, or maybe he'll just have the overwhelming rate of numbers here to defend the base. And if he defends the base, I think he's going to be in a great position. Fantasy is taking his 4th base, I believe. So it looks like we're seeing a gigantic macro war, just like Flash versus UpMagic. Another engineering bay coming in for Fantasy. He's going to float that over for a scout and use it to build turrets around. I'm surprised he hasn't built that already. I'm not sure if he has built an engineering bay already. Oh, it's a huge Wraith war in the middle. Neither really wants to commit to a lot of scan, though. They want to be super safe here, because if the scan drains from all of the comsat stations, it's going to spell doom for the player. Either player. This is pretty epic because both players are pretty much going for the same strategy, although Fantasy is holding the middle. He doesn't have nearly the amount of tanks that Leta does, though. Leta's going for a heavy tank army, tank and Wraiths, while Fantasy is going for Wraiths and mostly Vultures here. Going in, picking off more tanks. So this is just great play by Fantasy here. He's losing a couple Wraiths, but he's doing a great job picking off Leta's Wraiths here. Look at this micro here. This is brilliant micro from him. Turret's going to have to be repaired, and Leta is repairing it. Each is really crowding around a turret because the turret is pretty much the only thing besides scan you have to detect until science vessels come out, but I don't think either is really willing to commit to a science facility plus upgrades for the science vessels. That's a lot of minerals that's not being spent on Rays and stuff like that. And Fantasy's going in here with a huge Vulture army. He's trying to take on the tanks with Vultures and Goliaths, and it's starting to work here, I think. Oh, but all the mines going down in a split second. I think Leta focused fire on those mines, and he managed to take that battle area in the middle. So Leta is playing very, very excellently, I think. I think he was at a huge disadvantage earlier, but he's still holding Fantasy back. The longer he holds Fantasy back, the more of an advantage he can get in this game. Well, more of an even out he can get. Fantasy, in the meantime, is taking that 3 o'clock base. So this is heavy, heavy macro wars. Another starport. So we're going to see... Oh, another starport. This is just Wraith City here. The science facility is out, so it looks like Fantasy is devoting himself to some science vessels now, and that will definitely help him in seeing these Wraiths. Wow. Of course, with the amount of Wraiths that Leta has, one shot... like, you know, one micro shot from all this Wraiths, probably 2 control groups at this point, would take out a science vessel very quickly. And Fantasy's taking another base, so Leta's got to do something about this. He can't let Fantasy take this many bases. Fantasy is just going to have so many bases. 6 bases from my count is what he's about to have here if Leta lets him keep that 9 o'clock and the 3 o'clock. Of course, there's no defense at the 3 o'clock. Wow, that is a lot of Wraiths. And I think both players are going to just amass Wraiths here. Leta, he's losing his comeback here. If he can't do something about those new bases and this gigantic Wraith squad, he's just going to be screwed. Look at this, one shot basically from the pack of, well, fleet, I don't know what to call them, of Wraiths here. Takes out a tank. Just micro, shoot, buy tank. Okay, it looks like... oh, Oh, cool. Wow. Yeah, Fantasy definitely has a better macro at this point. He has 9 o'clock and the 3 o'clock unharassed. And Leta is struggling to just push through the middle right now. So Fantasy taking that middle early has definitely paid off for him. He has not been willing to get rid of his advantage in the middle at all. He's just keeping his raids there, making sure that Leta can never move out of the middle and do something about that 3 o'clock and the 9 o'clock. It's not quite as epic as the Flash in UpMagic match so far, but this is still very epic. Look at the amount of raids out here. Wow, Leta has quite a few raids as well. He might be tied up in raid count, actually. Phew. This is going to be a huge wraith battle, I think. Fantasy being picked off one by one there. He's got to be careful. Every unit counts when you come down to this kind of mirrored strategy. Of course, every second that Leta keeps those 2 extra bases is just a second wasted for Leta. Leta's got to do something about those, and he's got to do something now, I think. He's getting down to science facility with a physics lab,